Imagine an early morning in Central America. Mist rises slowly above the dense forest. Through the green canopy, the tops of stone pyramids emerge. Somewhere in the distance, birds call, water moves through the undergrowth, and the first rays of sunlight touch ancient limestone. Long ago, immense cities stood here. Crowds gathered in their plazas, markets opened. Ceremonies took place. Scribes carved the names of rulers and the dates of decisive events into stone. This was the world of the Maya, one of the most remarkable civilizations of the ancient Americas. Today, the word Maya often brings to mind pyramids, calendars, and mysterious ruins. But behind all of that were real people. They raised children, cultivated food, built homes, traded, argued, formed alliances, fought wars, and tried to understand the order of the universe. And one fact matters above all: the Maya did not vanish. Their descendants still live in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. They speak Maya languages, preserve crafts and traditions, and carry a living memory of the past. The Maya world covered a vast and varied region. In the north lay the Yucatan Peninsula, a hot limestone landscape where natural water-filled sinkholes, called cenotes, were essential to life. To the south stretched the humid forests of Petén, with rivers, lakes, wetlands, and deep jungle. Farther west were hills and river routes that linked one community to another. These lands were different, but they were connected by a shared culture. Cities rose, trade networks expanded, and ruling dynasties took shape. The Maya did not build one empire with a single capital. Their world was made of many independent city-states. Tikal, Palenque, Copán, Calakmul, Chichén Itzá, Uxmal, and many other centers had their own rulers, allies, and rivals. Sometimes they exchanged gifts and goods, sometimes they sealed relationships through marriage, and sometimes they struggled for influence, roads, water, and land. A Maya city was not a random collection of houses. Its center was carefully designed. There was usually a great plaza surrounded by temple pyramids, palaces, stelae, and ball courts. Markets and major ceremonies took place in the plaza. Here, people could hear proclamations from the ruler, watch processions, or meet merchants from distant settlements. Above everything rose the pyramids. When a priest or ruler climbed their steps, the movement itself expressed a journey toward the realm of the sky. Palaces were centers of power. Ambassadors were received there. Alliances were discussed. Treasures were stored. Advisors and scribes worked there. On carved stone stelae, the Maya recorded dates, victories, births, deaths, and accessions to the throne. Tikal became one of the great centers of the ancient Maya world. Its temples still rise above the forests of Guatemala. Calakmul competed with Tikal for generations. Palenque became famous for elegant palaces and exquisite carvings. Copán was known for its extraordinary number of stone monuments and inscriptions. And Chichén Itzá grew into a major center of the Yucatan in a later period. At the head of each city stood a ruler. His authority was not only political, he was expected to defend the city, preserve order, lead crucial rituals, and maintain a relationship with ancestors and the sacred world. Rulers were shown wearing elaborate headdresses, jade ornaments, ceremonial weapons, and symbols of office. These images were not simply displays of wealth. They declared that a ruler belonged to a dynasty and had the right to speak for the city. Around him stood noble families, advisors, warriors, priests, and scribes. Priests watched the calendars and determined which days were favorable for planting, travel, war, ritual, or major ceremonies. For the Maya, time was never an empty background. Every day had a character and a meaning. The calendar was not merely a tool for counting days, it was a way of organizing the life of society. Most Maya people did not live in palaces. They worked in fields, workshops, homes, and markets. Their staple food was maize. They also cultivated beans, squash, chili peppers, fruit, and cacao. Maize had a special place in both daily life and Maya ideas about the world. The harvest could determine the survival of a family and an entire city. The seasons of planting and gathering shaped the rhythm of the year. Cacao was highly valued. It was used in drinks, rituals, and exchange. Merchants carried cacao, salt, cloth, shells, bright feathers, pottery, obsidian, and jade. Obsidian, a volcanic glass, was used for sharp blades and tools. Jade was among the most precious stones. It became jewelry, masks, and ceremonial objects. Artisans made pottery, wove cloth, carved figures, created ornaments, and worked stone. Their creations were more than beautiful. They expressed status, ritual, identity, and the connections between cities. Cities were linked by roads and trade routes. In some places, the Maya built raised white stone roads called sakbiab. They connected important plazas, temples, and settlements. Rivers and coastal routes carried canoes filled with people and goods. Maya politics was complex. Cities competed, but they did not always fight. Rulers formed alliances, exchanged gifts, and arranged dynastic marriages. A daughter from one ruling family could marry the ruler of another city, and that union could transform relations between entire states. Yet rivalry remained intense. Wars could be fought for influence, control of routes, captives, tribute, or prestige. Victories were celebrated on stele, while defeat could weaken a dynasty for generations. The long struggle between Tikal and Palenque reveals how fierce the competition for leadership could become. Around these powerful cities stood networks of allies and dependent centers. Smaller cities tried to preserve their independence, chose sides, or shifted their loyalties when circumstances changed. And still, rivals spoke a common cultural language, calendars, writing, ritual, and shared ideas about time. One of the greatest achievements of the Maya was their writing system. Their signs appear on stele, temple stairways, ceramics, and the pages of ancient books known as codices. These signs were not merely pictures. Some represented whole words. Others represented sounds and syllables. Scribes recorded the names of rulers, dates of wars, marriages, rituals, and events important to a city. When scholars learned to read much of Maya writing, the stones seemed to speak. We learned about individual people, rulers, and dynasties. History was no longer anonymous. A scribe needed to master many signs and rules. He worked with pigments, stone, pottery, and bark paper. The work demanded memory, precision, and extraordinary skill. The Maya developed a sophisticated counting system based on 20. Dots represented ones, horizontal bars represented fives, a special shell-like sign represented 0. The concept of zero allowed complex calculations and the recording of large numbers. Mathematics was not an abstract pastime. It served calendars, astronomical observation, and the organization of ritual life. The Maya used several calendar cycles. One was connected with sacred time, another followed the solar year. Combined, they created a distinctive rhythm of days. They also used the long count, a system capable of marking immense spans of time. It allowed them to write dates separated by centuries. Time was not a straight line to the Maya. It was made of recurring patterns: day and night, rain and drought, sowing and harvest, the movements of the moon and Venus. Human beings lived inside those cycles and tried to understand their order. The Maya watched the sky with great care. They observed the sun, the moon, Venus, and other visible bodies. The movement of those bodies was connected to calendars, power, and ritual. Architecture was also related to celestial cycles. Some temples and plazas were built so that light, on particular days, fell on an important stairway, wall, or ceremonial space. A temple was not simply a building. It joined the city, political power, the memory of ancestors, and an image of the cosmos. People stood below. Ritual took place above, and over the pyramid moved the sun, the moon, and the stars. Astronomy, mathematics, and religion were therefore not separate subjects. They were parts of one system. By watching the sky, the Maya tried to understand time. By understanding time, they organized the life of the city. The Maya world was not a peaceful picture of temples, stars, and beautiful carvings. Behind solemn ceremonies stood a hard reality. Power required proof. Cities competed, harvests could fail, and ritual was not entertainment. It was a way of preserving the order of the world. For a ruler, authority meant more than wealth. He had to show that he could maintain a link with gods and ancestors. Important ceremonies therefore became public events, watched by residents, ambassadors, nobles, and allies. One known ritual was bloodletting. A ruler or noblewoman could voluntarily draw blood during a ceremony. It was understood as an offering and a confirmation of special status. In Maya thought, blood was not merely part of the body. It was connected to life force, duty to ancestors, and the maintenance of cosmic balance. Such scenes appear on monuments and works of art. To modern eyes, they can seem harsh, but for participants, they were a language of power and belief. The ruler demonstrated a willingness to carry the burden of office because the well-being of the city was believed to depend on his actions. There were also more severe forms of sacrifice. Yet Maya society should not be imagined as an endless sequence of terrifying rites. Most of the time, people worked, grew food, traded, built, and raised children. Rituals were rare, but especially important moments when fear, hope, and authority became visible to all. At the top of a pyramid, fire burned. Below, a crowd stood in the plaza. The sky darkened over the city. In such a moment, people saw more than a ruler. They saw a person believed to be responsible for balance between earth, sky, and the world of the ancestors. Maya wars were more complicated than simple attempts to seize territory. Their aims could include weakening a rival, demonstrating strength, gaining tribute, controlling alliances, or capturing important people. A captive from a noble family had enormous political value. His capture could become public proof of victory. On stele, rulers sometimes showed themselves beside defeated enemies. The message to neighboring cities was clear. This dynasty was strong, its allies were dependable, and its enemies were vulnerable. But behind stone inscriptions were human lives. War meant broken relationships, fear, displacement, and the loss of familiar order. For a small city, defeat could begin a long decline. This is one of the most powerful truths in Maya history. Stone was made for eternity, but cities lived with constant anxiety about the future. Very few ancient Maya books survived. When European conquerors and missionaries arrived in Mesoamerica, many manuscripts were destroyed as objects of an unfamiliar faith. Imagine a library where dates, observations, genealogies, rituals, and knowledge of the sky had been recorded for centuries, and then most of those books vanish in fire. Only a few codices remain. That is why every sign on a stela, every inscription on a vessel, and every stairway covered with glyphs is so precious. Archaeologists and linguists reconstruct Maya history like an immense mosaic made from fragments scattered across cities and museums. For a long time, Maya writing was treated as an undecipherable code. Scholars could recognize dates, but could not read the texts themselves. The breakthrough came in the 20th century, when researchers understood that signs could represent not only ideas, but the sounds of words. That discovery changed everything. Ancient stelae began to describe specific events, accessions, campaigns, alliances, and the deaths of rulers. We gained the ability to hear voices from more than 1,000 years ago, but we still do not hear everyone. Stone texts usually tell us about nobles and rulers. We learn about farmers, mothers, children, porters, artisans, and merchants through the remains of houses, pottery, animal bones, fields, and traces of daily work. Maya history is built partly on silence, and that silence makes it more powerful. Behind every name on a stela stood thousands of people whose names were never recorded. One of the most troubling themes in Maya history is climate. Agriculture depended on rainfall. In some regions, water was an especially precious resource. When the rainy season failed, fields, food stores, and the life of the city suffered. Studies of ancient sediments, caves, and lakes show that the region experienced severe droughts at different times. This does not mean one drought instantly destroyed the civilization, but years of water shortage could become an immense test. A feed of needed water for people, fields, construction, and everyday life. When reserves fell, tension increased. A ruler had to explain why the familiar order no longer worked. Priests performed rituals. People waited for rain. Neighboring cities could become enemies or unreliable allies. If poor harvests returned again and again, new problems followed. Trade weakened. Discontent grew. Dynasties lost authority. Cities that had once fed thousands became too heavy for their environment. At the end of the Classic period, many major centers in the southern lowlands gradually declined. New dates appeared less often on stelae. Palaces were no longer rebuilt. Plazas emptied. People left. It was not a sudden end in a single night. It was a slow fading. Each city experienced it differently. In some places, power weakened earlier. In others, people migrated. In still others, life continued, but without its former scale. The most frightening thing for an ancient city was not a damaged temple. A temple could be rebuilt. Worse was the moment when people no longer gathered in the plaza and no one carved a new date into stone. After people left, the tropical forest began to reclaim the cities. Tree roots entered cracks. Vines covered stairways. Soil buried courtyards and walls. A pyramid could become a green hill. For centuries, many cities were known only to local people and travelers. Then archaeologists began clearing the forest. Under soil and roots appeared plazas, palaces, masks of gods, stairways, and inscriptions. But the forest did not simply hide the cities. It helped preserve some monuments, while also reminding us how fragile human power can be. Imagine a ruler ordering his name carved on a vast stela. He is certain his memory will live forever. A few generations later, his city weakens. Centuries later, the forest covers the plaza. And only after 1,000 years does another person, speaking an unknown language, read his name again. There is something almost mystical in that. Ancient stone survives kingdoms, wars, reign, and forgetting, only to speak once more. Maya calendars have often been wrongly linked to a prediction of the end of the world, especially before the completion of a major cycle in 2012. That was a misunderstanding. For the Maya, the end of a cycle did not mean the destruction of the world. It meant a transition into the next phase of time, much as the end of a year does not destroy the calendar, but opens a new year. The Maya did not expect one final ending. They saw the world as a sequence of repetition, renewal, and return. The sun sets and rises again. A field gives a harvest and then needs sowing once more. A ruler dies and a new one ascends. A city suffers defeat but may recover. Time never stops. This idea feels strikingly modern. It reminds us that no civilization is fixed. Even the strongest cities can change, lose power, discover new paths, and build a future again. The greatest mistake is to look at the Maya only as an ancient mystery. Yes, their cities are astonishing. Yes, their writing is complex. Yes, some of their rituals can feel unsettling and distant. But the Maya are not only ruins, they are living peoples and living languages. They are people who continue to cultivate the land, weave cloth, tell stories, celebrate festivals, and maintain ties to their regions. The Maya past did not end with the decline of the cities. It changed form. From stone capitals, it moved into families, communities, languages, and memory. When we look again at a pyramid rising above the forest, we should remember that it is not scenery for a mystery. It is the trace of a vast human story, a story of knowledge, beauty, fear, belief, power, and an extraordinary capacity to endure. Maya cities had special ball courts. Their stone walls and sloping surfaces can still be seen among the ruins. At first glance, this may look like sport, but for the Maya, the game was much more. It could form part of a festival, a diplomatic meeting, or a religious ceremony. It expressed the struggle of opposites, light and darkness, life and death, order and chaos. The movement of the heavy rubber ball could be understood as an image of celestial motion. Rules and meanings varied by place and time. Not every game should be turned into a story of sacrifice, as films often do. But the ball court was clearly an important part of urban space. Spectators, nobles, and ritual participants gathered there. Sport, politics, and belief met in one place. Even in a game, the Maya saw more than one team's victory. They saw an image of a world that is always moving and always seeking balance. When we look at huge pyramids, it is easy to admire their scale. But every stone had to be quarried, shaped, carried, and placed. Every palace required the labor of many people. Construction did not happen by itself. It depended on the communities, masters, porters, and farmers who gave part of their time to public work. The stronger a city became, the more resources it needed. A ruler could order a new temple or a stela to commemorate victory. For a dynasty, it was proof of power. For residents, it was another duty and another season of hard work. The greatness of a city always had a cost. It had to feed people, maintain roads, store water, build homes, defend borders, perform ceremonies, and sustain trade. While all of this worked, a city seemed unshakable. But several poor harvests, military defeats, or political mistakes could make the whole system crack. That is why Maya ruins inspire more than admiration. They remind us of the fragility of every great order. The highest temples cannot save a society if it loses water, trust, or the ability to cooperate. After the arrival of the Spanish, Maya history did not end at once. Many communities resisted, withdrew into difficult terrain, and preserved local authority and traditions. Some cities and forest regions remained independent for a long time. The last major independent Maya state on Lake Chichén Itzá survived until the end of the 17th century. This is an important detail. Many centuries passed between the great age of the classic pyramids and the final conquest of the last independent centers. During that time, the world changed. New trade routes, new forms of power, and new cities appeared, but Maya people continued to speak their languages and live on their land. Maya history is not the story of a civilization that suddenly disappeared. It is a long history of adaptation. Some cities passed into the past, others emerged. Some dynasties lost power. Others found new ways to survive. Perhaps that is the deepest Maya mystery, not secret prophecies, but the extraordinary resilience of a culture that endured wars, droughts, colonization, and centuries of forgetting. Mist rises again above the forest. Through it, the steps of a pyramid appear. Once, rulers climbed those steps. Below, merchants laid out their goods. A scribe prepared pigments. Farmers waited for rain. Priests watched Venus. All of them lived in a world where the sky was a calendar, stone was a book, and the city was a living organism. They did not know that 1,000 years later their temples would stand surrounded by forest, or that people would have to learn to read their writing again. But they believed that important events should be recorded. And they were right. Their stones preserved memory. The Maya world did not disappear in a single moment, and it did not dissolve into legend. It continues to speak through ruins, languages, descendants, calendar signs, and faces carved on ancient stelae. And perhaps the deepest lesson is not the mystery of pyramids or the myth of the end of the world. Perhaps it is the thought that every city, every form of power, and every civilization survives only as long as people remember why they build, count time, and look toward the sky.